And I thought an interesting topic to talk about is, what do you really want? We talk about wisdom, people talk about attracting to themselves, the laws of attraction and all those sorts of things. But the question really is, from a spiritual point of view, what do you really want? And religion's about what you're supposed to want, and we know how that works. Spirituality is not about that. Spirituality is about looking deeply within and seeking truth, clarity. That's what it's about. So this discussion has nothing to do with my feeling what you should want, or you even feeling guilty or weird about what you do want. The question is, what do you really want? And the way to do that, and I'm going to be very bad in doing this, is to say, here's a piece of paper, not really, but figuratively, and I want you to write down what you want. Just take a little time, don't do it. Take a little time and write down what you want. And if you're like most human beings, probably first on the list is a good relationship, something that makes me feel important, needed, wanted, loved, secure, all that kind of stuff. And so whether you're in a relationship, I'd like it to get better, so-and-so should behave in different ways, should understand me better, etc. Or if you're not in a relationship, how to find my, quote, soulmate, somebody who just fits perfectly with me and just fulfills the meaning of my life. And if we're really honest, we write down a nice house and a Ferrari, or at least some sort of a car, and perhaps children, and or perhaps a little time without the children, and we make our list. Nobody's judging, just be honest, you put that down. The purpose of this discussion is, no matter what you put on that list, unless you're very highly evolved, my experience is it's not really what you want. It's not that it's wrong, it's just not really what you want. And the way I prove that is as follows. Let's say you put down, I want a relationship. I want to meet somebody. I want to have that special relationship. And then I would ask you, what if you walked outside after this conversation and all of a sudden there was this bush in front of you and it started burning like it did to Moses and talking to you. And its opening sentence was, I am the Lord your God, and I would like to discuss some things with you. And said enough things that it knew about you to where you were pretty freaked out that you're actually talking to an omniscient, omnipotent being, or at least bush. And the question that gets asked of you is, what would you like? What do you want? I can grant whatever you want. And having gone through this exercise with me, you feel, God, thank God, Mickey, I'm prepared. This is neat. I thought about it. And you say, I want a relationship. I want to meet somebody. I want to have that thing I've looked for my whole life. Or I want a house. Or I want the perfect job. I want a job that makes me, that fulfills what I'm looking for. And what God tells you at that point is, I can give you that. I have the power to give you that. But there's a caveat, which you probably want to hear before I give it to you, which is, I can give you that perfect person. They will be loyal to you. They will stay with you your entire life. But the caveat is that you will be completely unfulfilled. You will feel sad every time you come into their presence. You will not feel any love. You will not feel any joy, happiness, meaning. But they'll be there, and they will dote all over you, and they will just be the most perfect partner that they could possibly be. Or give you the job that you thought would be the most amazing thing, but it's hollow for you. You go there and you thought it would turn you on, but it doesn't. And you just loathe going to work, and you're just not excited about it. So therein lies the, what do you really want? Because what you're going to find is, if you were given the opportunity to have a relationship with that person I just described, or have the job I just described, but it didn't do squat for you, and it left you hollow inside, you would say, I don't want it. In fact, if it's going to make me miserable inside, I really don't want it. Keep it away from me. And so to move quickly, because we only have a little time here, then I say to you, you lied to me when you said it was what you really wanted. Because it isn't true you wanted a relationship. It isn't true you wanted children. It isn't true you wanted money. It isn't true you wanted to travel around the world. It isn't true that you wanted, et cetera, et cetera. What's true is you wanted to feel good inside. You wanted to feel love. You wanted to feel joy. You wanted to feel inspiration, excitement, meaning. Those are inner things. They're not outer things. You listed the things you listed because you thought they would give you what you really want. And so wisdom, yoga, spirituality is about going deeper. Buddhists talk about working at the root. So the truth of the matter is, the only thing you needed to write on a piece of paper when I asked you, what do you really want, is a sense of total well-being. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel inspiration. I want to feel meaning and depth. And you made the mistake of doing it what I call indirectly, by saying, I want something outside that I think will make me feel that inside. So without belaboring the point, to go deep and to really be on a spiritual journey, you don't let yourself do that anymore. Because I'm sure there are plenty of times that you said, oh my God, if only this happened, I'd be fine. And you know that didn't turn out that way. Even if it did for a moment, it didn't stay that way. It's not like there wasn't anything else you ever wanted. And likewise, if something was bothering you, you sat there and said, if only that would go away, I'd be fine. That again is not the truth. So you come down to the point where eventually you'd be totally honest with yourself. It may sound selfish, but you'll see in the end it's not. To where you say, I want to be happy. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel inspired. I want to be turned on inside all the time. So now if that burning bush was sitting out there and you were wise enough that when God said to you, what do you want? And you said that, whoa, you're a winner, right? How can you lose if from the moment you wake up in the morning, you're turned on, you're inspired, you're excited, you can't wait to see what's going to happen for the rest of the day, and you embrace it totally, and then at night, you've given everything you have, you put your head down, you fall asleep, you wake up again, I'm back, ready to go. That would be a beautiful life, and that's what you're looking for. You just think you need all these things in order to get that. So now we go to the next step of what do I really want? And the question that gets asked by a person who's deep and wants to go spiritually is, yes, I want to feel okay inside. That's really what I want. The outside is not what I'm about. It just seems to, in my past, I've had the experience that the outside changes how I feel inside. And that's what a wise person starts to realize. That if certain people walk up to me and they say certain things at just the right time in just the right way, it turns me on. If the same person walks up to me at the wrong time and says the wrong thing in the wrong way, it turns me off. So I now have taken on the task of manipulating, controlling everybody who walks up to me so that they say it right, what I want at that time, and they don't say what I don't want. And it just comes down to, I have this list of what I want and what I don't want. And most human beings, and most means 99.9%, have devoted their entire life to getting what they think they want and avoiding what they think they don't want. And the emphasis on the word think. Versus it becomes much simpler when you realize what I want is to be okay. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel happiness and inspiration. So now as you look at that, the next question becomes, why don't you? Because your experience is, I can only feel those things if the outside comes in through my senses in a certain way. So the depth where you start to get spiritual and you go deeper into this is you ask, why is it like that? Why is it that if I get what I want, it turns me on? And if I don't get what I want, it turns me off? And if I get what I don't want, it definitely turns me off. And if I don't get what I don't want, I feel relieved. We take that for granted. A yogi takes nothing for granted. A spiritual person questions everything. Why is it that the only thing that really turns me on is when the outside world is exactly the way that my inner state decided it wanted it to be? And we could go very deep into this and talk about it a lot, but I want to do it very quickly. You could create any situation. The story I always tell that I use is, you just read in the newspaper that there was a 1942 penny that was minted in Denver that's worth $6 million. And the rumor is that it's floating around your neighborhood. Well, all of a sudden, when you go into the store and get change, you're looking at your pennies. And you never looked at them before, they never did anything for you. Now you're excited about getting the, in fact, you ask the cashier, I want it all in pennies, but it's 90 cents, I'm pennies, all right? Like your whole mindset changed. Your whole relationship to life changed because you got into your mind the thought that I want to find a 1942 Denver mint penny. And if all of a sudden you are given a penny and you look at it and it says 1942, all this rush of energy and spirit rushes up inside of you, excitement, enthusiasm, and then you see it's got a P for Philadelphia instead of a D. And all this depression and letdown happens inside of you. Don't you realize you're doing that? Prior to you reading that article in the newspaper, there wasn't any penny anybody could give you that would do that to you. You are doing that to yourself. So what you start to realize is that when your mind has a preconceived notion that something will make me happy, you believe that penny would make you happy. So therefore you're looking for it, you want to get it. So you project it out into the world that I'm going to be okay if I find that penny. I'm going to be okay if I find the right relationship. I'm going to be okay if I find the right job. I'm going to be okay, et cetera, et cetera. By doing that, you set up a condition that said, if the world unfolds that way, I will open to it. I will be receptive. The word is open. We're all spiritual people. We understand the word open. It means my mind will be receptive. My heart will be receptive. And it is because you open that you feel the joy. Objects do not give you joy. That which turned you on turns somebody else off. That which turned you on today turned you off yesterday. All you had to do is hear one more thing, and your whole mindset changed. So it is not proper to think that there's something out there that will ring your bell. There is something you decided inside yourself that you will open if it happens, and it is that opening that brings the joy, that brings the love, that brings the light. And that's an absolute truth. It's always that way. Likewise with closing. If you decide, I don't want to see a snake, I don't even want to know there's such a thing as a snake, then your whole life is in big trouble. Because if you see a rope, you think it's a snake and you close down. If on the other hand, you don't have that issue with snakes, you see a rope and it's a rope. And if you happen for a moment to think it's a snake, no big deal. But if your mind has decided, I don't like snakes, I don't want to see a snake, you know what it's going to do to you. So it is this conditioning of the mind, we call a mindset. It's the conditioning of the mind that makes it so that things turn you on and turn you off. And that's where you get your list of what you want and what you don't want. It is not true that you want those things. What you want is something that will open you so that you can feel the joy that is natural when you're open. And you don't want the things to close you so that you get blocked off from any joy and you get this sense of depression. So you have a choice, even right at that point, and we haven't even gone deep yet. You have a choice. Do you want to spend your life deciding what you want and what you don't want, and then chasing it outside? Or do you want to sit there and work inside to realize all I really want is the joy and the love, and if I stay open, I can have those. I don't need outside conditions to keep me open. So I make a very important point, because in spirituality it gets mixed up. Spirituality is not about renunciation. There's no renunciation. Renunciation says, I've decided what it is that will make me happy, and I'm not going to do it. Well, that sounds rather absurd, all right? Spirituality says, it was stupid of me to decide what will make me happy instead of being happy with life, instead of being grateful and turned on by all of the amazing things that are happening in front of me and all the past experiences I got to have. Why don't I just enjoy all that and then come into life filled with love, filled with joy, and give the whole of my being to the moments that are unfolding in front of me? That's what spirituality says. So it's not about renunciation. It's not about things are wrong and things are right. It's about understanding that you did this. You did this with your mind. You set up conditions in which your mind would open, and then your heart opens, and conditions in which your mind would close and your heart closes. So spirituality is very, some people say spirituality is not logical and rational. It is so. It's saying to you, why are you doing that? If you want to have a beautiful life, spin around a planet in the middle of nowheres, why don't you just open? It's your heart, it's your mind. It doesn't need conditions to open. It's just you don't know how to do it. It's you've become used to, programmed, habitual, that you had a past experience. This, by the way, this is where it comes from. How did you decide? How did your mind decide what it is you want and what you don't want? You did not make those decisions. They were programmed into you by your past experiences, all of them. So you had a past experience where something was nice with a certain person, they looked a certain way, they had a certain name, they drove a certain kind of car, whatever it is. And it really was high for you. It was beautiful, years and years ago. Now one of those things shows up. You meet somebody with that name. As shallow as that sounds, don't kid yourself. You meet someone with the name of your ex, you close down, even though it's not the same person. You meet someone with the name of who you had your first date with in high school, that it was a wonderful relationship, and you open up. And likewise, when you see a car they had a nice experience in, it turns you on. So you are programmed by your past experiences such that if they were good experiences, they tend to open you when something reminds you of them. When they were negative experience, they tend to close you. And that is where you get your list of what you want. That's why all of our lists are different. Everyone's list is totally different. Someone tells you the list is the same as yours, they're manipulating you, because everyone has had different experiences. And based upon those experiences, it left these impressions on your mind, and you came up with this list of what I want. So when you make the list of what you want and what you don't want, you're really making a list of your past.